A little while ago, Marvel announced that the next Avengers movie would not be Kang Dynasty. Marvel, what are you doing? Welcome to Sandwich Reviews. I'm the Talking Sentient Sandwich, and I never thought Kang was the problem. There was one bad movie with him as the villain, and a bunch of controversy surrounding the actor, but that shouldn't have any effect on him as an overarching antagonist. Jonathan Majors, as it turns out, is not a good person. And for as great as his acting is, I don't want to see any character portrayed by someone who belongs in jail. Marvel, in their infinite wisdom, decided to show that every version of Kang looks like him, but there is still a simple solution. Recast. There's no need to even mention it. Kang looks different now. Move on. Who should be the new Kang? I don't know. I just know that that's what they should do. I do get not being happy with his latest output. I mean, he was set up incredibly well in Loki, but that was He Who Remains, not necessarily Kang. And don't get me started on Quantumania. Actually, no, let's talk a little bit about that. I think Marvel is making all of these choices simply because people didn't like him in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. First of all, he was the only good part of that movie. And second of all, of course they didn't like Kang. The movie was lackluster, so there was no weight behind him or what he did. He had an army of non-threatening stormtroopers, and they ended the movie with a fist fight. I mean, that last one in and of itself wasn't the problem. Ant-Man and Kang, stripped of their power suits, are regular dudes. So it would make sense that at some point they would have a punch-up, but it was not done well, and even if it was done right, that wouldn't fix the movie. Or Kang. But frankly, none of that should matter. It would be great to be able to look back and see Kang pop up here and there as a formidable enemy that we know is going to require all of the Avengers to stop, but not having that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still cool to see when it happens. Maybe that's still a possibility, but at this point, I don't think we're ever going to see Kang going against the Avengers, which isn't just disappointing to me, it's soul-crushing. Kevin, I want you to look at me when I say this. He's an interesting villain. He's got future technology that is basically magic, but underneath all of that, he's just a guy. Those are my favorite villains. One similar example is Mysterio. Get to him and it's not very difficult to stop him, but that first step, getting to him, is near impossible. He's shielded himself within this impenetrable bubble of special effects. Kang's version of this involves much more time travel, but it's the same idea. Kang's shield is his knowledge of the timeline. Sometimes he wants to know it, and most times he wants to affect it, but it's his perception of it that allows him to gain the upper hand. His future technology helps him along the way, especially when it comes to brute force, but without it, he's still dangerous. Working off of what we've seen from the MCU so far, Kang's motivations are muddled, to say the least. But they boil down to one thing: trying to save the timeline from destruction. And I want to see that story concluded. I want to see their explanation of Kang's necessary evils for the greater good. I have no idea what the Council of Kangs could have to do with that other than them being the ones going around destroying timelines, but they should have at least a part in this narrative too. Though they don't necessarily have to be a part of it, because even I have to admit that it's much better to have one man versus an infinite number of them. Well, at least more emotionally interesting. It's difficult to write a story where one singular person is the main antagonist, and even more difficult to make that person just a guy. Granted, he's from the future, but when it's done well, it's really good. It's why Prometheus is almost never used as a Justice League villain. I'm assuming you haven't heard of him, but he's just opposite Batman. His criminal parents were killed by cops. But whenever he shows up, the story has to be written incredibly well, mainly because he has to have a really good plan. And who doesn't love a story with a mastermind villain? I know I do. So, we know Kang will be dealt with no matter what by Secret Wars, but why not put him against the Avengers before we get to Doctor Doom? But that's why I still want to see Kang Dynasty. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not. And as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.